Today is April 9th, 2018. It's MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goes. To my left is Gorgeous George, the host of the show. To his left is Dan Tom, MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst. And back in New York, Danny Okers, producer. Hee hee, Okers. And today is our mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. 75 years.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday,
Happy
George and
birthday.
Ghost's mom.
Mama.
That's Beaver Rob, to my right.
Beaver Rob. Oh, hey, Beaver Rob. Beaver Rob's voice. Beaver Rob hasn't had coffee in the morning, guys. So it's this morning yet. So
Yeah.
give him a break.
All right, let's see here.
Not much to talk about today, guys, huh?
No, nothing at all.
I don't even know why we had a pre-show. I mean, maybe we probably need to save up all the topics we can just to fill the show today. I don't
George.
What?
You know those cards we got from Blue?
Yeah. Down to my last one.
What?
I gave one to Juliet when, these last few weeks she's been going that way. And so I gave
do you have
her
to
one,
activate
and then
them?
I used one. No, you just go here. Boom.
Oh, okay.
I used one, but remember, like on one of mine, I thought I brought you something. So it's 25, and we average about 8 to 10. So boom, 18 can go like that if it's. But you know I like it, so I go there a lot.
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, 2
Did you get a ticket, Danny Okers, to the fights?
I did not.
It ended up, which makes sense because you read the records that it was sold out, which was true because it was almost full before the main card. The whole
Yeah.
arena, top to bottom, it was really full, and there wasn't that many prelims for it to get full. But yeah, I guess maybe that's why one didn't surface. We had a good time.
We
though.
did. Yeah, we did end up going to the weigh-ins and the press conference though.
Yeah.
I got a little taste of like a UFC event. I just didn't get to actually see
Just
fighting.
a little
Who were
taste.
you hanging out with?
Dan Tom and then Mike from Brooklyn.
Oh, I
Showed
did
up.
see that picture. That's right.
Yeah.
Mike.
Who did you have more fun with?
Dan Tom or Mike from Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Well, Mike from Brooklyn was there for like a half an hour. Dan Tom and I hung out like half the day on Friday, so I guess I gotta go with Dan Tom.
Damn, I can't believe he's coming at Mike from Brooklyn like that. Like when I was
No.
there, I only saw Mike from Brooklyn a couple times. I saw you every day, but I'd lean towards Mike from Brooklyn.
Wow.
That wasn't even for the effect on the show. That was an honest reaction.
That was yeah.
Coming up at 30.
Even laid out your trip and everything.
I kept commenting while Dan Tom was there, and I was like, when George came, we did this and that. went to Buddha's spot. Went to Buddha's
Two of
bar.
them.
And
Oh
yeah. Kept saying all these stories. I was bringing up all these stories about you, George, to Dan Tom and everything.
They're in Manhattan, right? Those spots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
guess coming up
yeah,
to
we didn't make it into
Smithfield.
Manhattan. Yeah,
You didn't make it. Oh, that's right. You were Brooklyn. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't.
except for a very
Alright,
end, which
stand
I'll share later.
Hookers?
Better chicken.
Female hookers?
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
we've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio, commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital in the world, Mike Rust. Inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Our ace co-host to my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom, back east. Producing, as always, Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, boy.
Where do we start?
That's the best question of the day. I was going to ask you the same thing. We all had fun trips back east, and we'll get to those.
Everything falls apart.
But do we even start with what happened before UFC 223, or just get right into UFC 223?
What happened?
2 out of 3
I say what happened.
before UFC 223.
Yeah.
I want to get to the fights. How about you? You're the tiebreaker.
I don't know. I mean, you guys sounded like you guys were creating explosions in your part of the world, in the East Coast, and I was trying to avoid them where I was at, you know, because there's a lot of explosions we can get to, a lot of topics we can get to cover here. Maybe the fight week. I don't even want to know if we can call it the events of fight week, because I don't know what the events really had to do with the fight week, but there were some events that went on during fight week. Do we start there and plow our way forward?
Well, that's what we're voting on.
Yeah, I would like to start early, but tie it into where Dan, because Dan went to the event, where he was when he found out each piece of information as it happened.
There's a funny story to that, but yeah.
Let's go through these results, and then we'll do it, because we're also going to have John Morgan on the show. He's going to comment. He was there in Brooklyn all week, and so we'll also get his thoughts, as well as Ray Longo, who was there to corner a fighter who was on the main card. I think they were the opening act of the main card. And next thing you know, they were in the main event, and this close, .210 of a pound from fighting for a world title. So he had an extraordinary week as well. But right at the top, Khabib Nurmagomedov defeated Al Iaquinta. If you only check the news once a week, there's a good chance you may have thought, wait, wasn't he scheduled to fight Ferguson? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ferguson fell out 8 days ago. Then it was Max Holloway for about 4 days. That fell out, and it became Al Iaquinta. They went all the way. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeated Al Iaquinta in the UFC's 223 card, their main event, 50-44, 50-43, 50-43. The scores aren't as significant because I think Iaquinta made a lot of fans. I think he had a good showing for himself. See, we were expecting Khabib TKO stoppage round 1, round 2, round 3 maybe, and maybe an Iaquinta that may never be the same in air quotes. But in fact, Iaquinta went out there and competed in a few rounds. Now he did still get, a version of the mauling that Khabib dishes out to other lightweights. But Iaquinta went out there, and I think if he has a little bit more juice and maybe some game planning, who knows? It may have been a more competitive fight. Maybe part 2 if we ever see it down the road, which I doubt. But who knows? I think he's got a lot to take from that. I think he should be proud of his performance. And I think other lightweights had their notepads out, their pencils out, and they said, hang on a second here. Okay. All right, this guy's not indestructible. But regardless, you hear those scores, and you're like, wow. So first of all, congrats to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is the first fighter from Dagestan, the Dagestan region, to win a world title like this, in a major world title in our sport, and also representing Russia, and now goes to 26-0, and I believe 10-0 in the UFC. Amazing. He's the
one
undisputed
of 3 lightweight champions.
No, he's the undisputed champion in the lightweight division. Why is he undisputed? Because apparently at some point this week, and I don't know that there was ever an official chat about this, but Conor McGregor was stripped of his title, and Tony Ferguson no longer is the interim champion. Now, depending on who you talk to, there's still some people that have doubts about that. But check out Ben Folks' article, and you'll know a little bit about more what we're talking. This is a 2-hour show. We're going to run into 3 hours of overtime if we seriously discuss every fine detail like that. But that's still something that's being talked about. However, as the UFC sees it, they got one champion only. They've been very direct about that. It's Khabib Nurmagomedov. Your thoughts on the fight? You start off. You were there.
Khabib and Al?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. I think I got to rewatch it. Of course, I'm there live. By that time, the drinks have been flowing a bit. But yeah, it didn't necessarily surprise me live that it went 5 rounds, and it didn't surprise me after the fact when listening to Khabib in his press conference video of wanting the extra round time. That's kind of not out of line. He's actually made those comments before when he's come back from long layoffs. He wanted the extra round time. He wanted more when he came back and fought Horcher, so he got it when he fought Barbosa. Right, and so when he says something like that, I tend to take a guy like that at his word. He's shown the skills that he has. He's a no-nonsense type of individual. I don't think it's any kerfuffle that he's talking like that or anything. So I believe him. I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's a lot of talk now on the commentary, which is the part where I frustratingly cannot contribute to because I haven't rewatched it and I was there live, so I didn't hear the commentary. I like Jimmy Smith and Rogan. I wanted to hear how they did. But B, with this match, I don't know if you guys saw, there was some criticism where Joe Rogan even responded about how he was calling Khabib. People thought he was being too critical of Khabib, and I haven't heard it, so I can't weigh in on that. But I will say, just without hearing it, I am somebody who has been, quote unquote critical. Maybe not critical, but just to say, hey, this guy's human. There's this, there's this, there's this. Well, and you guys heard me on the show and breaking down his fights. So without hearing it, I can't say for sure. But I think it sounds like Rogan was doing his job to me.
Yeah, Rogan's stuff aside, though, Khabib's performance, would you call it dominant or just got the job done? And what do you think now about having one world champion?
I didn't think the scores were going to read off as they were live. It felt closer, especially rounds 3 and 4. Rounds 3 and 4. But again, Khabib said he wanted to work his jab. He was landing, not just the fight metric numbers. You look at Al's face. So, I mean, you can't blame Khabib if he saw something that he liked there. For me, for many others who are like, oh, Al's power, and if you're somebody who looks at Khabib as a human being and you saw that first round with Michael Johnson, you were like, I don't know if you should be doing this, Khabib.
Right, his hands were down and he was really upright.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he's getting rounds in, a more technical striker in the lightweight division may have been able to catch a hook in there. There was a punch that Al threw late that Khabib, I'd say, I don't even know if it got to the wobbled stage.
Yeah.
But still, it seemed like he was playing for fire when he was being so dominant early on. And I don't know if that's what Rogan was saying was,
right,
hey, you're dominant, you're undefeated, there's really nothing to pick at. But if we're going to, others have taken notice over what we saw in rounds 3 and 4,
right,
where he couldn't get the takedown and the striking wasn't too beautiful to watch.
And the reason why I'm kind of defending Rogan without even hearing him is because what's upsetting is that it doesn't matter if Rogan's saying this. This is something that I've said on the show. This is something that other fighters, like we just had on the fight week, Bobby Green, he actually did a really good impression of Khabib striking. In other words, this is not anything new. Whether you're a fighter or not a fighter, this is something, if you watch footage on Khabib, you already know. So for people to criticize anybody for saying, hey, the striking didn't look good, like you just said, George, hey, there's some holes here. That's correct. I don't think we should be getting mad for anybody saying that.
I don't think Joe needed to apologize. I
no,
thought he was pretty spot on.
That's his job.
It's just 25 minutes after a long night with not much else to call, because at some point it became a dance these guys were doing, and we were holding our breaths. Could Al catch him, since Khabib wasn't able to get him down, or is Khabib going to get him down and maybe finish him this time?
Yeah.
We don't know, but I think Joe's earned the right to say whatever is on his mind as he's watching the fight, and I didn't think he was out of line one bit. What'd you think of the fight?
I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought Khabib did what he was going to do in round 1, made that a point of getting him down and just ground and pounding him. But then he decided to stand up with him, and I didn't think he looked too bad, to be honest. I thought he had a nice jab. I thought for not knowing the other guy's cadence, his tendencies, or anything like that, to even stand with him was pretty ballsy. To be able to hang was pretty ballsy. So I was actually pretty impressed. I think a lot of people were kind of giving Khabib shit for his performance. I thought it was pretty brave to go out there and do what he did.
Yeah, you got to.
Some guys don't even take those fights, right? You saw that with John Jones.
3 opponents: Ferguson, Holloway, and Al. And so we're not saying that he established a camp for each guy and switched everything up. I mean, Khabib's got his style, and basically you got to adapt to him. But just mentally and psychologically, to go through all that, to go through, hey, am I fighting for a title? Am I not going to fight for a title? Am I not going to fight for a title? And then to hear the sequence of Pettis and Felder and Iaquinta and who else may or may not be eligible, that's pretty draining, man. So he did go out there. He did his thing. You said Al's power, and we've seen it. He has it. But I felt like it wasn't there past round 2. It felt like, maybe the adrenaline dump that you can have from not just, there's UFC jitters, but there's also that adrenaline dump from these big fights that sometimes you get caught up in. And it could just be draining himself from getting up from some of those takedowns, which you got to tip your hat to that. A lot of people have not been able to put themselves in a position to go rounds 3, 4, 5, and hope to threat Habib in any way. But once that power was gone a little bit, I thought the only thing you can do is catch him with an angle. His straight power punches, you can keep him off you with the jab,
right?
And you can maybe try and load up once every 2 minutes or something. Maybe you have some power if you catch him. But I felt like Habib coming in so upright, if he got sloppy and Hal had some form of a hook, maybe that could catch him. It's just you were basically banking on kind of like a Hail Mary in football. It's like, well, if we throw it up 4 times, maybe our tall guy will catch one. But regardless, man, both guys went out there, they performed.
Yep.
And I, despite everything that happened the whole week, I still left the hall where we were watching the fights feeling like a satisfied MMA fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a fun time.
So
it just sucks that you know what you were in for, and it didn't pan out. The fight I was looking forward to the most it got canceled.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Felder and Iaquinta.
Yeah, that was going to be a good one, man.
Yeah, same here.
So there you have it. As far as, Tony's pleading a case very similar to Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker defeated Yoel Romero this past summer while Michael Bisping was the undisputed champion, and he was coming back from an injury. Robert Whittaker got hurt in that fight and couldn't unify with Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping then went on to fight George St. Pierre while Robert Whittaker was on the mend. But at no point in time did they take that belt away from Whittaker, even though he had a serious injury, which needed a surgery. Then the fight happens. George St. Pierre wins and vacates the title. Therefore, that interim title came into play, and Robert Whittaker is now defending his undisputed title versus Yoel Romero. That's what Tony Ferguson is saying, is like, hey, why was that taken away from me, Now, it kind of doesn't matter because we have a healthy undisputed champion in Habib,
Right.
so maybe it just goes away that way. But he was saying leading into the fight, what if Al wins? Because Al wasn't eligible to win the title because of that point, too, that he came in heavy, which, by the way, that in itself was a little bit ridiculous. Did they really go through the process of weighing his underwear?
From what I heard, yeah.
Why would they go through that if that wasn't good enough? You know what I mean? Or when all this was going down, that's what I want to talk to John about. When all this was going down, why didn't he just take the underwear off then in case he needed to fight for the world title?
Adam Carolla has been saying something on his show for years, and it's always funny because he always makes fun of the guys dropping towels, whether it's boxers or MMA guys. He's like, why don't they just have the commissions make a commission underwear that they all weigh? We know how much the underwear weighs, and we just can do the math. Can we do that math as adults? Do we have to make them strip down? Do we have to go through all these protocols? And he was making a joke of it, but he's been making that joke for 10 years, and it kind of rings true with what you just said. Like, did they really go through that? And
that would have been very cool.
Ridiculous.
If Al won the title, if Al upset the undefeated Russian, he should be champ,
Yeah.
And he, and of course Dana said things were going to work out. But I'm not into that. Man.
I don't even understand that.
I'm into like a playoff game
Yeah.
and a championship game or a Super Bowl or whatever it's called, a trophy presentation, a ring, a belt. I'm into that. I'm not into like, we'll see when we get back to Vegas what's going to happen. We'll figure it out. They're crazy. She's crazy. I'm crazy. Hopefully, man, every single time this madness happens, this type of circus atmosphere happens, someone's in the back going over the legalities so it fucking never happens again, because it's a joke to me, man. I did not like the fact that as that fight was unfolding, I go, what if this guy wins? Now what? There's no champions. If they technically already told Ferguson, you're out, and Connor's out, I mean, what if there was a draw? There was so many things that just, we tried to get that from Anik, and even Anik wasn't so sure, but it was frustrating, because I was around a lot of casual fans, a lot of non-fans who were taking to the sport, that were enjoying the fights, and they were confused, and I couldn't provide answers.
I guess what you could do to eliminate all that is just put a rule that says, I don't know, you're not allowed to grab a dolly, bring a bunch of your friends, and throw it through a bus window. Maybe that would make the situation not happen.
Yeah. That was ridiculous, man. I think Connor could have done what he said he had to. It needed to be done, were his words. If that needed to be done, why did it need to be done on office time? Like Khabib says, just let me know. Send me a message. Tell me where to be. Those guys could have went to that park where the Warriors had their little summit, or not the Warriors, the Riffs had the summit with all the gangs, and maybe, bring your best nine, I'll bring my best nine or something, and Khabib and Connor can watch from afar and call it Ireland versus Dagestan. I don't know, but Conor McGregor, as brilliant as he is as a trash talker, as a fighter, as a promoter, as a businessman, boy, he does stupid things at times too. You know, that was really stupid what he did, and it cost fans like yourself. What, the trickle effect was 3-4 fights?
Yeah, 3-4 fights cost me that
Ridiculous.
as a fan, as a money spending, spending supporter of the sport, and as somebody who was on media who technically wasn't supposed to be working as media, it caused me to rewrite about 3.5 if you consider, because Khabib had 5 opponents at one point, and in one of those, Anthony Pettis was so close to getting done that I couldn't help it. Us as a media, we're waiting around for announcements on Friday. Like the UFC keeps telling the media to take lunches, come back. Maybe it might be longer. Take another lunch. Literally, that's what they're saying to the media. I'm sitting in my hotel room awaiting orders, awaiting announcements. What am I breaking down at this point? My fantasy articles got shot to shit. The main card article got shot to crap. Sorry about pardon my French, which included my favorite fight as well. That goes with saying Quinta Felder. So, it didn't really have time to hit me till my butt hit the seat for the show, where I'm like, oh shit,
And it's actually just hitting me right now.
We're not seeing 4 or 5 of these fights,
Yeah.
man. And who knows what's going to happen tonight, like you said, or what the stakes are, because it had even people in the know that were technically on the ground. Well, we were confused too, George. Don't feel bad. I mean, it was bananas. So yeah, it was not fun. And we kind of covered 3 topics there. The middleman of topics is the commission, and there are commission members releasing statements today, which I would like to catch up on to kind of clear up that debacle. But the other 2 things link to each other. You initially started about the title with the interim. You laid out that example beautifully, and kind of Conor McGregor's fight week. Now, I think those 2 things are linked. I think the reason why you're right, there wasn't an official stripping. There wasn't a ceremony. The word wasn't even used by Dana White. Keep that in mind, folks, as far as Conor McGregor's loss of a title. Our own MMA junkie John Morgan probably got the best answer out of Dana, which I'm sure we'll go over when we have him on it at the post-fight presser. But it was kind of a non-committal statement. So what I think is that, there's a talk, are they going light? Are they going heavy on McGregor, heavy-handed? What's the punishment going to be, for all this fight week incident that you just cited? Well, circling back, I think that they're going to go light if you look at it to the fact that they did strip Tony Ferguson. Now, you could say it was Dana White being emotional, which we have seen, right? We have seen that. Sure, that could be part of the reason. But another part of the reason, forgive me if this sounds like I'm putting my tinfoil hat, they wanted to strip him because stripping him does keep that kind of title in no man's land. And no man's land, as we see in this UFC, no man's land is more powerful than rankings land, right?
So they wanted to not officially strip him so that there wasn't anything official out there is what you're saying?
Well, it helped.
Therefore, if the fight
helps.
ended in a draw, or let's say the fight never happened, they still could revert back to Conor being a champion, and then
Right.
maybe Conor goes, hey, it just hit me. I'm ready in June.
Yeah, and let's be honest, as we've seen from drug or any other kind of legal things in MMA, that these things are easier to find ways around to get a guy into the ring than an injury. An injury, there's no working around an injury, right? Surgeries, there's no shortcuts around that. Whether you agree with it or not, though, whether it's drug testing, legal, or any others, with many cases in MMA where we found, and in boxing, we found ways to get guys into the ring. It's going to appease Conor because they're trying to make relationships happy with him. We just heard Dana White say, instead of, went from, I'm disgusted with Conor, to that same post-fight press conference that I just cited, Dana White says, I think our relationship's good. So clearly that means something
There's
to
a
him.
mutual
We
respect.
just had a great talk.
Why
Yeah.
does he fear him so much?
Yes. And again,
Dana's halfway to being a billionaire.
Yeah.
So I really, at this point, I don't know what gets him up in the morning.
Yeah.
He just loves the fight game. I get that. But he has financial security.
Yes,
Every year, I
100%.
think he makes $10 million as long as the company reaches certain bonuses, and then he'll make more. But it sounds to me like he really has way more than enough money and that he'll ever need. Maybe he wants to be a billionaire, and obviously this is the route, big fights. As far as WME, IMG, they just had their biggest year ever without Conor McGregor fighting in MMA. So it sounds like they have a sound business plan or a path to, paying back these loans or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
If I had to
I
guess,
don't know,
I'd say
man.
it's a timestamp. If I'm Dana White and I know in my head I've only got 3 more years, then I'm willing to do crazy shit to make those 3 years big.
He's upsetting so many of his fighters along the way.
Yeah.
That I've talked to or that I've seen react, and it's, I don't know, man. But what one thing I wanted to say was, Conor said it needed to be done. Okay, that was done.
Right.
Now what? Did it look like Khabib in any way was shaken up? You know what I mean? Ali was going nuts, his manager. He was in that bus. But when Khabib got off, he was pretty calm.
Yeah.
He spoke into the camera. Hey, just let me know where you're going to be at, He went out there and beat Ally Quinta after finding out that it could be Felder and Pettis.
Yeah.
Where was the gangster move there, I mean,
yeah.
that's why I'm saying he lets me down at times because he's so brilliant, and at times he comes up with like third-grade plans. You know, it's like, hey, I heard they have a clubhouse. Let's throw a tomato at it. That was the equivalent at.
You just said it.
You know?
Yeah, great. It was grade school list. It was grade school list. Yeah.
Ridiculous,
Yeah.
man. I'm only reacting to it now because Goz and I were, I guess, in a force field, 2 bases in Virginia that treated us so kindly. We'll get to that towards later in the show, but we were there to do a job. We were there to be with the United States military, the Army, and the Air Force, to be more exact, with great people and along with some great fighters. And so all we kept doing was, when we could sneak something in without being rude, just look at, what did you say? What are they doing? Put the phone away.
Half the time we all thought we were trolling each other. That couldn't be.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys.
Masvidal,
It came as like trolling, right, for you guys? 'Cause you're like,
going
no
on here?
way.
And as we're flying home, you know, it all starts to come together. We were so exhausted, and but now that's why you're getting my reaction.
Right,
to just
100%.
Some of this mayhem that took place in Brooklyn, like fighters, camps, people, get it together. Like I you know, everyone, promotion.
Yeah, and I'm sure John will mention this, but just quickly, we had a moment too where I was getting on, because this is happening Thursday where everything exploded. You guys flew in on Wednesday, right? I flew in to New York on Thursday, and before I got on, I'm talking with our editorial team on the ground, John. He's like, "Hey man, looks like it's gonna be an easy day. Come on in. We're gonna have some pizza, get some beers. It'll be the early night." I land and I turn on my phone, and it's just fucking chaos. Pardon my French again. It's just chaos. And I'm like, he jinxed it. Looks like we ain't having that early night. And sure enough, it just turned into a bunch of sleepless nights. So hats off, just real quick shouts to everybody in the media who were just on the ground, to everybody just had to just throw all their content pretty much in the trash that they've been working on for the last couple of weeks promoting this show. So just a real quick shout out to the media in general.
Let's take some quick calls, and then we got to take a break, and then we'll keep taking more calls. So call in 866-522-2846. Let's start with this venomous individual who comes strong usually.
Yes.
Jeffrey from LA. What's up, Jeffrey? How you doing?
Better than Custer, guys. How you doing? And happy anniversary to you guys.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, buddy.
Guys, I have a pit in my stomach right now, and it started last week, and it still hasn't gone away. And this could be the cynic in me, but I'm just going to predict right now, and I'm not saying this is absolute or definitive. Nothing's going to happen to Conor McGregor. Already in a couple days, Dana White went from calling this one of the most disgusting worst thing that's ever happened to saying there's mutual respect with him and Conor McGregor. The only people I heard have the right take on this was Mike Swick on his podcast, and it figures a fellow Houstonian would do that. All that's going to happen, he's going to get a legal slap on the wrist, he's going to sign some checks, he's going to make this, and the UFC is going to make this all go away. And the UFC are going to put him in a fight, maybe with Khabib or someone else, but they're going to put him in a fight as soon as they can. And I know there's probably going to be some commission and licensing issues, but I feel like I don't really feel like anyone's treating this as seriously as they should be. Conor McGregor is a disgrace. He's a disgrace to his country. He's a disgrace to the sport, to the UFC. He embarrassed himself. He embarrassed his country. He embarrassed his family and his son. He went after Khabib in his camp. He hurt everyone else except the person he was after. He is in the one sport where he can be locked in a cage with someone, and it's legal, and fight and beat someone else and take their head off. He's in the only profession in the world where you can do that legally, and he attacks a bus and throws a dolly and injures people. He's a terrorist. That is not an exaggeration. That is the truth. I'm disgusted, and I will be and I'm disgusted with the Mac Life people. Guys, I haven't been credentialed for a UFC event in 5 years, and these guys get credentialed, and they assist terrorists and letting people attack. This is ridiculous. This is garbage. Go Astros, World Series champions 2018.
See you, Jeffrey.
I'm curious to see what happens with Ray Borg and Michael Chiesa, because a lot of people are saying they have every right to sue.
Yep. The staffers, there's also staffers that were hurt on that's not getting much publicity, and I wouldn't blame them one bit for those people work hard enough on this crazy UFC schedule. They don't need that crap.
Yeah, and by the way, Borg, he's taking a lot of heat because you can see in the video he's wearing glasses, and he looks calm, looking around maybe to see if everyone else is okay. And then, of course, he pulled out because I guess small pieces of glass were in his eyes. I mean, do you guys seriously think this guy pussed out?
No.
You know what I mean? Come on, fans. Pull your heads out of your ass. Do you really think he went through all that? I mean, if you're going to puss out, wouldn't you do it before that Thursday night when all of a sudden you have to shed 10 pounds, You've been dieting this whole time, and all that sucks. Training camp sucks, and getting beat up, even whether you win or not, you're still going to have some lumps and bruises. All that sucks. But one of the worst things is that actual cutting of the weight, you know what I mean? And when they're getting to that stage, man, why would he look for that particular out?
He was the second biggest favorite on the card. He already has a track mark just 2 fights ago for pulling out, and all that came out with that. You think that guy really wants that heat from his bosses again?
Glass can be one of those where you don't know that you're cut. You're like, well, what happened here? You know, or like a paper cut. I mean, it just happens. And when it has to do with the eyes,
sensitive.
I'm sure he didn't lose an eye, and I'm sure he was able to mingle around New York once they were able to remove what needed to be removed. But I think they just took a precaution. Think about these guys' safety. Him and Marino can fight in Chicago and Rio de Janeiro, and anything that's coming up, we'll get our fight. Now, it sucks for those of you that flew, like Dan, from all over the world to pay and go. But come on, man. At some point, use your common sense. All right, one more, and then we got to take a break, and then we'll come back to more calls. You guys are on fire. Let's go to Brandon in Louisville. What's up, Brandon?
Guys, it was a crazy, crazy week. I don't even know if we can break it down. The whole thing, the change in the cards, Conor McGregor going nuts, the event itself, WrestleMania, Ronda Rousey's successful debut, Brock Lesnar throwing a wrench into the thoughts that he might be coming right away. But you know what was the craziest thing ever this week?
I don't know, but I have a feeling it's going to be funny.
Gigi set a date for the gathering. Guys.
This is true.
Oh.
We're getting some info today on this, right, Gigi?
Sure. October 2nd through the 6th. It revolves around UFC 229, I believe it's called.
All the news are
here
dropping.
in Las Vegas.
Guys, that's the big news this week.
Are you guys hearing a bike horn?
Yeah.
I think so. Or one of
I heard
the
it.
push cart ice cream guys.
What the hell's going on back there?
Little old ladies behind me in checkout line. I'm going too slow for it.
Come on out, guys, for the Junkie Gathering. It's going to be a really, really good time. We'll have lots of planned events. We'll have random great times revolving around the sport that we love to just sit around and bullshit, man. We've done this, I think, 6 ago? 7? How many Junkie Gatherings are in the books?
I think 6.
6 are in the books. This will be our 7th. This will be in a new season, the fall, early fall. And I think that'll be the last time we try something other than what we've tried. So, yeah, that's where it can turn into something that just doesn't matter at this moment. Maybe later in the show or maybe tomorrow, but at least you have your date. But what'd you think of the fights, man?
Honestly, I did not watch the fights.
Okay, what'd you think of the results of the fights?
The results of the fight was good. I was nice to see that Rose got the decision win. She proved that it wasn't just a fluke win the first time around. She is without a doubt the best.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you mean the fact that she caught her. Because I was going to say there was no fluke there. I mean,
the way
she was pretty dominant. Stuff. Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's time we move to the co-main a little bit and talk about that. I looked on MMA decisions, and I would say 85%, maybe 90%, had Rose winning. Anything from 49-46 to 48-47. And there was 4 outlets, including ours, that had Joanna winning 48-47 her way, Joanna's way. But the 3 judges were all identical in 49-46, except get this, guys. Each judge gave a different round to Joanna, so they couldn't even agree on the one round that they agreed with. One went with 2, one went with 3, and one went with 4. And you know what? I don't think that they're wrong, because Joanna did have some offense, and there were some rounds where she settled in, and there were some close ones that you could go, Joanna?
No.
Rose? You know? But in the end, I think the rightful winner won. and I think she was just more efficient, even though the numbers don't reflect that. If I kick the ball 3 times at the goal and it goes in 3 times and I have 3 goals, and kicks at the goal 20 times but only 2 of them go in, I mean, that's just the way it works out sometimes.
Yeah.
The stats don't always have to be the defining factor. Joanna's pointing to that, and I get it. I would too. Wait, where did it go wrong? Show me something. You go to the press conference, you start reciting these things. But I thought Rose was very efficient with what she threw. Joanna did attack the legs, but I didn't notice that it slowed down Rose like others have been slowed down. It did cause her to maybe not be able to put as much pressure on there, but not to the point where she had to switch her stance or she was limping or the crowd was like gushing that, oh, my God, maybe a technical stoppage because of leg strikes. It didn't get to that. And then, a takedown in the 5th. There was these little things that Rose just did along the way. And like she said it, sounds cruel, but she goes, I'm just better, man. I'm just better than her, man. And that's what it appears to be.
It seems like one of those situations where when you look at Matt Hughes,
thanks, Brandon,
right,
for the call.
He had his kryptonite, Dennis Hallman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Trigg, he beat Dennis Hallman.
Twice.
But he lost to Matt Hughes.
Twice,
it may just be one of those situations. The night of, I need to go back and watch it again. Night of, I thought Joanna just edged it out a little bit. But it was one of those type of fights where depending on what you like in mixed martial arts, you probably could have judged it anyway, really. So I'm not at all, I don't think it was a robbery or anything like that. But
right,
Rose did have her
I was
really
with
good
you.
moments.
And so we're watching, but we're with a sea of people, and there's that distraction, like, nice to meet you, sipping your drink, you know what I mean? And let's not forget, we're in Virginia, and those 3 judges have their full attention. Even if you can say, well, is this guy a black belt? Did he box? Did he wrestle? Whatever. At some point in time, they've built up enough knowledge that they, with, using the criteria, the scoring criteria, their seat, and the fact that they're, paying attention as close as they can, seeing the impact of the blows, you got to trust that. And then when I have my doubts, I look at MMA decisions just to see how the other experts, the one that are sitting a few rows back, how they're calling it. It just looks like it's really a hard thing to dispute. I feel for Joanna. She's in a tough spot. She lost twice to the champ. But that's where you're at. If you don't have that type of offense, that you don't overwhelmingly win a round where you go, that's a Joanna round. There is no looking around. Who'd you call it for? You feel pretty certain about it. You're posting it on Twitter. You're not waiting for others, because you weren't paying attention enough. And I'm guilty of that. You know what I mean? For a fact it was around. There weren't enough of those. And so Joanna can't go to the bank with it. Anyway, let's take this break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We'll keep taking your calls. Keep busting them out. Also, our guest today will be John Morgan. In about 30 minutes, 25 minutes, he'll join us. He was on site there in Brooklyn, and then he'll be followed by Ray Longo. Plenty of pockets, though, to call in. So call in 866-522-2846.
And you there?
All right, here we go. We got a few minutes here. This is our longer break on Sirius XM Rush 93. But you all on Facebook and YouTube, let's interact here for a few minutes. We got Ricky Box. Yeah, felt like the takedown in the last minute or two. Really wanted for Rose. It may have been the deciding factor. One judge told us once that he's got a pendulum. And according to the offense that he's seeing, the pendulum's swaying towards either name. All right, he's not a fan of the 10-10. I'm not. I think most people aren't. And even the ones that were, they don't preach it as much. So in that pendulum, if it was pretty even and Rose landed a takedown, that might have been it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
regardless of what she did with it or how she reacted to it, I mean, picking someone up off of their feet and onto their ass is something.
Even if you call it a stiff jab or a leg kick, it's something. And she got it. So that might have been it, but see, that's the mystery of this sport. We don't know. It could be that she had the round anyway. That's just what a lot of people like to say. But regardless, I don't falter for doing it, and it did seem to put that stamp. All right, Rick Sanchez. Bro, take my call. I'm on hold for 30 minutes. We will, man. We will take some calls, except there's no one on there named Rick Sanchez. So I don't know. What are you, mystery guy? These names that I see don't sound like you. Are you sure you're calling into the right show? 866-522-2846.
He said his name's Mike.
Oh, his name's Mike. All right, so, yeah, there you have it. Jeffrey Ford. Calm down, Jeffrey. Take a break. Nah, let him say it the way it is, Jason Ford. Passion's good.
We know our geometry better than your high school math teacher.
Octagons, rings, and square circles on SiriusXM Rush 93 and the SiriusXM app.
Explosive takedowns, jaw-dropping KOs, and electrifying submissions.
If it happens in the world of mixed martial arts, we're talking about it on SiriusXM Rush 93 and the SiriusXM app.
Derek Jesse, shout out to him. He says, Ray Janelle, one tough guy. I agree, man. Cosign. Salute. Here's my coffee.
I had one of those one time.
We'll pretend it was a shot or something. Yeah.
And it tasted like shit. It was so bad that I couldn't believe it was actually being sold to human beings.
I usually like Starbucks.
But mom likes those.
It's all right, yeah. Raimundo Martin, a.k.a. Showtime. What's the date for the gathering again? October 2nd through the 6th. Tuesday through Sunday, or sorry, Saturday's kind of been adopted as the meat and potatoes. Some of you get here early. Some of you stay late. But pretty much as of Tuesday, I think it used to be Wednesday, but as of Tuesday, we just get together and do something. Dan Oswin, this is a Borman's talking about WWE.
What?
I don't know. Yeah. This is a man who doesn't write English well, is what I have to say back to him. Alfonso Berry, New York MMA is cursed. It's had its moments, but, man, have they had some great cards on paper. Some have delivered, some haven't. The UFC's delivered to New York with, superstars and title fights, and I'm jealous of New York, man. I feel like Vegas is the one that took the hit.
How can you even blame the UFC, though? Like, that card was designed where even if you had a hiccup, it would still be a strong card. Something ridiculous would have to happen for that thing to fall apart, and it did.
Connor is a huge clown. Total exaggerating. Get on with the whining. When Jason Ford goes to work, does he sit like on a carrot or a dildo? Like, what's always up his ass?
I don't know.
Holy cow, man.
That was Jason Ford?
You got 100. I got 100. You get 100. Danny, PayPal me 100. Let's get this guy laid or something. Fucking A.
Back in 30.
Who else? Big Country's underwear is going to weigh the same as DJ's. That's a good point to Adam Carolla. If DJ's got little underoo and Big Country's got these big old boxers,
weight classes in.
So why don't we just round off and say, well, what's the heaviest boxers that are out there or whatever? And let's call them Big Countries or Francis or someone and go, all right, it's 0.5. Let's take 0.5 off all of them.
Coming back, same back.
Hey, idiot. Yeah, you. Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
Fantasy baseball is in full swing, and SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio can take your team to a championship. Hear expert advice from the best fantasy baseball analysts, plus interviews with big league players and general managers. If you play fantasy baseball, you need to listen to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210, XM87, and on the SiriusXM app by searching Fantasy Sports. All right, just a couple details here from the fight card that took place on Saturday. The fight of the night went to Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Kyle Bochniak. Wow, we could spend 30 minutes on that fight alone. That was something else. Magomed pretty much in control, but Bochniak not going anywhere. And Bochniak made me a fan. I can't wait to see his next fight. Win or lose, that guy was just entertaining. And Magomed just keeps getting better and better. And I think even he was just caught a little off guard. I think he thought, I'll be going 100 miles an hour downhill, and at some point I'm just going to mow this guy over, and it did not happen. Performance of the night went to Chris Grutzemacher and Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Each of these gentlemen got $50,000. The total gate for the card was just over $3 million, and the attendance was 17,026, and I believe it was an official payout, right, Dan?
Yeah.
An official sellout.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Yeah, all right. Now, some of the other results, and then we'll jump on these calls. Rick / Mike, we'll get to you. Renato Moicano, he defeated Calvin Cater. Leg kicks, man.
Fun fight.
Yeah, it was a fun fight. What I didn't like was we were starting to have a lot of decisions, and I was hoping at some point, like, a KO would result from those leg kicks or something from either guy. I didn't really have much of a preference either way, but it was quite a show by Renato Moicano. Nice comeback fight from Moicano, to lose to Ortega and then watch Ortega take out Cub and then Frankie and go, fuck, that could have been me, right? A lot of people can't come back from that, and it just goes to show you how he was able to rally back and get a solid win over a guy that's only lost 2 times in his career. Also, I mentioned the fight of the night. It was Zabit Magomed Sharapov defeating Kyle Bochniak, unanimous decision, although one of the judges was impressed with Bochniak and gave him one round. Chris Grutzemacher defeated Joe Lazon, a corner stoppage there, and I think universally everybody, not only because we love Joe, but because it just felt like that was the right thing to do. Comebacks have happened before,
especially with him.
Don't get me wrong, yeah, exactly, but it just wasn't his night. But further to that, it's just not the Joe we remember, And I wonder if they will huddle up and have more conversations about this.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I thought it was the right call. I'm big on corner stoppages. You guys know that. I think we should have those more. And, yeah, man, if anything, it shouldn't change our opinion on that. It should change our opinion on the pay structure, because I got to imagine that kind of, weighs on these situations. But I'm sure we can all agree, little Joey would rather, it's better to have a healthy dad than another half of a paycheck. That guy's got so many fights and bonuses. He's good. He'll be okay.
He's good, and his name is cemented.
Yeah.
We all have been treated to many great fights. He's been an amazing grappler and an amazing guy. And though we never won a world title, I think everybody at some point was a Joe Lazon fan or is a Joe Lazon fan. Karolina Kovacevic defeated Felice Herrig. Split decision there. I thought Kovacevic – I thought it was going to be a unanimous decision. And, I was rooting for Felice.
Right. Yeah, me too.
But I thought she was just getting it done every round. She was just producing more offense on both ends, the ground and on the feet. But now there were some clinching positions where it could have been that the judges just felt like Felice was more in control of those positions and she was taking the fight where she wanted versus what Karolina, perhaps didn't want to be there. And I think I would agree. I think close quarters is more of what Felice preferred, primarily because she wanted to use that to get the fight to the ground. But Karolina was just pretty fluid, man. She went out there and got herself a tough win, and now she's just back in that top 5 of UFC strawweights, and in that top 5, someone's going to get a title shot.
Felice looked a little slow. She just seemed tired from the get-go.
She is. She does. It's happened before. I've noticed it. The first round, she'll go out there, and she's very fluid. She's got pop to her punches, and then I think she's just a muscular gal, very, lean and cut. At some point, her gas tank just starts to diminish a little bit more than some of the others. Now, that said, I've seen her dig so deep against like Justine Kish, who's very strong, and she was able to get these takedowns. I thought she was going to get Karolina down at some point and then threaten from the ground and possibly win. You saw a quick Karolina tap to Claudia, so I thought, wow, she's probably one of those that needs to show up. But Karolina was taking her down, and Karolina was, actually – had some offense on the ground. So testament to Karolina improving there. And with Felice, something needs to be figured out, I think, with her strength and conditioning, because that just can't happen that you're in a slower gear than the other fighters like that. If you're not going to have the speed advantage, you better have the power advantage. And it seemed like Karolina was actually the harder thrower. Now, Karolina did give Felice a lot of credit. She said that may have been the hardest I've ever been hit when Felice landed a nice
At the end of the
hook
fight?
to the jaw. She says that's the hardest I've ever been hit. So Felice still was packing some power there towards the end, except at that point, rather than keeping the distance and maybe finishing her that way, because Carolina was losing her footing, they locked up, and that allowed Carolina to clear the cobwebs, and that was that. All right, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Boy, this happened fast, huh? He took out a tough Evan Dunham. I did not expect that. I thought Dunham was going to win. And Ashley Evans-Smith defeated Beck Rawlings. That fight was just not to my taste. Luckily, I had Evans-Smith in my parlay, so I was happy to see that. But I couldn't wait for the fight to be finished, to be honest.
Right.
Devin Clark takes out Mike Rodriguez. Shocked me a little bit. I thought after Rodriguez's debut, I go, hey, we might have ourselves somebody here. A player, a new player at 205, because he's, formidable guy, formidable-looking guy with some pop. But Devin Clark getting the job done.
Yeah, I thought there could be
undersized light heavyweight. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, no, just a couple thoughts since you recapped the whole card there, just to jump in and kind of stringing that together, which is, I agree. It was hard because the flow of the card was kind of weird. I don't know how it was for you guys at the joint base or people that were watching at home, but you start off with 2 decisions that kind of George just said, where you're like, okay, let's pick it up here, and then you finish with 2 5-rounder decisions. Now they were quality fights, and the fighters, especially those fighters, with all they went through, the main event, even the co-main event, nothing but respect. They overachieved, so please don't take it as a harsh criticism, but it kind of gave it that feel, that decision feel. And then you look at it, the only 2 finishes were, whether it was a fan favorite like Joe Lozon or a guy I know personally like Dunham, like those were the 2 kind of staple standouts for any of you hardcores. Those are the names you've probably been longest attached to, and those are the 2 guys that kind of get just iced almost anticlimactically, whether it was a little bit more of a drawn-out version of Joe but clear, or just the fast but clear version of Aubin-Mercier. So, selfishly, if I'm being honest, it was plus with the fight week, maybe that's what kind of took some of the luster out of the card for me. But there were 2 quality decisions, and I'm glad you gave it their due, which was Kyle Bochniak versus Zabit Magomed-Sharipov, and Hanato Moicano versus Calvin Guitar. I need to go back and watch both those fights just because I really enjoyed them and feel like I need to go back and take them in. And then back what you guys said with Rose and Rose and JJ, I think that was a close fight. I don't think you guys were crazy at all. I think, but for what it was worth, for the extra point of view, I was sitting in a crowd with no one really cheering for either girl, but at the end, everybody kind of felt that Rose won because of the takedown in the 5th. So, for what that's worth.
I think no matter how that card would have played out, we still would have just been let down a little bit just because of how
it's true.
If you and I were sitting at home, goes instead of with the troops, we may have been coming back on. That was kind of boring. But the troops made it so much fun, guys.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of USA versus the world feel to it.
Oh, nice.
So we had USA chants going on, and just the vibe that they brought. It was amazing, man. I just don't know how you could have a better possible viewing party.
Those dudes were awesome.
Than with that. And Dan, you've seen a version of this.
Yeah.
I kid you not. We're gonna show you some video. It got 10 times louder than what you've ever seen. I mean, they turned into fucking gorillas, man. It was this close where had they served alcohol, a riot would have.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I can't believe they did that
on
without
their
alcohol.
chairs and pounding the tables and going nuts. We were telling them to cheer for Felice and this and that. So when there were these moments where there could be a finish, they wanted to just put it all out there. But these, things would slow down. They'd go to a decision. But I'm telling you, when there was any type of action, like the fight card in Detroit that had Ngannou versus Overeem, there was a finish there.
Yeah.
Holloway versus Aldo, there was a finish there. Felder over Oliveira, right?
Yeah.
There was a finish there, and then even Alvarez and Gaethje, they would have lit the place on fire.
Oh my goodness.
So, fun times though. We got to take one more break, and then we'll finish up with these calls. They've been waiting. I know this guy. What is it? Rick? Mike? What's he going on?
Rick,
something like that. He's gonna be pissed off we don't get to him. So we'll get to him when we come back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The SEC now has a 24/7 home on SiriusXM. Hear the hosts like Peter Burns, Chris Childers, and more on SiriusXM SAC Radio, channel 374, and on the SiriusXM app. Let's get to these calls. Mike/Rick from Florida. What's up, Mike/Rick? How you doing?
Hello, man. This is Rick from Dimension C137/Mike. What's up? I got two quick things.
What's with the
for y'all,
two names,
okay?
man? What are you, Batman or something? Like you have an alias? Well, which one is it?
Nah, you guys never heard of the show Rick
I
and
got the
Morty?
Rick and Morty reference back here.
All
That
right,
was awesome.
Thank you.
Oh,
See,
okay.
thank
Oh,
you.
that's that show Danny's always talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was really good.
All right. I know
All
I'm
right.
talking to a buffoon now. Danny agrees with him. All right. What's up, man?
Wow.
I got two quick things, guys. Me and my friend were having a debate. To me, this is a silly, dumb debate, but I want your guys' opinions on this real quick. We're having a debate on our Facebooks together.
Okay.
He was saying that he felt that Quinta versus Khabib was a draw. I say, no way, shape, or form. The second round was a 10-8. His argument was, well, I want to give points for stuff takedowns and deduct points for the attempts. But in my opinion, Khabib won that clear, and it's just pretty much a testament to how good Khabib really is when you're sitting there saying, oh, well, this guy survived. He didn't get mauled like 99% of everybody else, so let's give him a ribbon. You know what I mean? But I want to hear your guys' views on that, and he's listening right now, hopefully.
What do you think, Dan?
I tell your friend that in theory he is correct, and if he goes and watch Khabib Nurmagomedov and Gleason Tebow, he will see that theory correct, where Khabib probably shouldn't have won that decision according to commentary, according to a lot of people who watched it because of ineffective attempts, whereas this is different. Khabib did fail on some attempts, but we've seen him fail in attempts later in the fight. Even in Edson Barbosa, he failed on two. He was okay with standing. You saw that he made a choice to. Now, were those closer rounds that he elected to stand? Was it dangerous? It certainly was. Could you have maybe interpreted one of those or two of those rounds for Ally Quinta? We've seen crazier things happen in MMA, but I got to disagree with your friend as far as it being a draw, and I will tell him maybe to watch that Khabib Gleason Tebow fight because I think his description will be right for that fight.
Yeah, as far as a failed takedown, there's even degrees to that. You know what I mean? There's some will argue, some even take it so far as, okay, he got the takedown, but he didn't do anything with it. Well,
right.
Again, now we're talking about interpretations of judges and what
yeah.
they're scoring, and I'd still rather be the guy trying and failing,
True.
and succeeding at times than the guy playing matador,
forcing the fight, right?
Right. I mean, who knows if they're getting any points for any of that?
Yeah.
But I really like I remember Chuck Liddell had a nice sprawl. And then he popped back to his feet and it was like, what's up? And you could just see the other guy going, wow, I expended energy. And I got this guy even more pissed.
I mean, like I said, given the circumstances, I thought he fought a great fight. Both guys. I didn't expect Al to really hang in there the way he did.
Oh, yeah.
And then turn it around. Towards the end of the fight, he wasn't really too afraid to throw.
Right.
He was finally stepping into his punches. He wasn't kind of sitting back.
Right.
I credit both of them.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a draw. I agree with Dan. All right. Thanks for the call. And you turned it around, man. I really enjoyed talking to you, Rick.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, make it quick. You got 15 seconds.
All right, do you think Connor's a punk since he attacked the bus instead of just fighting Khabib in the cage?
A little bit. We'll talk more about that. Take care, man. See ya. We'll be right back, folks. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close. We got John Morgan coming up here, and we will mix in some of these callers that we have on hold as we discuss for the next 30 minutes everything that happened at UFC 223 in Brooklyn. right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. We're being joined now by John Morgan. Follow him on Twitter at MMA Junkie John. Also hosts the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan. He's one of the best in the business. Former winner of the Journalist of the Year award for the World MMA Awards. What's up, John? How you doing?
Man, just recovering, to be honest, from a crazy week. Unquestionably one of the most exhausting and tiring weeks I've ever had covering the sport.
John, was it fun at all? What was it more towards? Fun, frustrating, disappointing? What would be the adjective that you would use to encapsulate just everything that went on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's always a little bit fun, right? I mean, as hard as it may be, you know, you may end up working 18, 20-hour days or whatever, but there's, you know, a lot worse ways to make a living. It's an opportunity to be around the sport that we all love. So, yeah, it was fun, but it was frustrating. It was sad. I mean, when you're talking about the Conor McGregor stuff, obviously that was sad and a little bit depressing to see him going through that. I mean, a guy that has such an amazing career and amazing story, and to see it come down to this, I mean, that was sad. You know, the Max Holloway stuff was rough to watch happen, and then the cycling through to Anthony Pettis and then, you know, just the way it all fell apart for Paul Felder, and then finally Al Iaquinta. I mean, you know, that was interesting to say the least, and weigh-ins taken all day, so that was crazy. And then, you know, I know Dan Tom was in the building that night. It was so funny. Then, you know, finally we get through everything, and we sit down in our seats, and it's like, all right, well, it is what it is, but here we are. Let's get this thing done. And Bruce Buffer comes on the mic before the fights even start, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a change in the main event." And it was like, what? Again? And he's like, you know, it's now Al Iaquinta, and you're due a refund if you want one. We'll go to the box office. I was like, oh my God, thank God. I thought we had another change. So it was just nuts.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would say that no matter what, how frustrating things got, no matter what kind of hours were put in, that is the unique thing about our sport, is that it can go in so many directions. Mm-hmm. And of course, what sucks is we lost fights, but you know, our sport just gives us the unexpected, and I think that's why we tune in, not just for the results of the fight, but the way we cover these athletes. It's, you know, they're from every country in the world practically, you know, different cultures, different customs, different ways to function, to treat business, to treat fans, and it's nuts, man, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity for a guy like an Al Iaquinta who's had troubles with the company, right? I mean, let's be honest, hasn't always been, you know, the company guy or whatever, but for them to have to call on him and him to get that opportunity, and, you know, meanwhile, Paul Felder, you know, a guy that's on a nice run and who is the company guy, he's a broadcaster, and, you know, thought he was going to get his opportunity, and that didn't work. I mean, it's just incredibly intriguing, incredibly you know, wild the way it all played out. And I thought the night of fights was pretty entertaining, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I heard you guys talking earlier about kind of the weird ebbs and flow of the night, and it did have kind of an odd momentum in it. But overall, top to bottom, I thought it was a fun night of fights. I thought for what it could have been and everything that we went through, I thought it ended up being okay.
So, John, when there's times where I see you over at the UFC PI and we have these scrums with Dana, and I love those settings because it's like we just throw a bunch of stuff at him and he answers it. That's kind of what I want to do with you, because there's so much to talk about. And so worrying about sequential order, you know, because everything's just going to find its way to circle back to other stuff. But here's some things that I was wondering, because I was in Virginia and I just couldn't pull away without being rude to look and dissect all the details. But where I'm confused is this. On weigh-in day, Paul Felder weighed in at 155. At that point in time, did he know he could be one of the ones that was, you know, in the running for the title fight? And is that why he did it, or was that just random that he did that?
So it's pretty incredible. If you go back and watch the footage, he jumps on the scale, he weighs 155, and he actually says 155 championship weight, and then he gets off the scale. And you think, okay, well, is that, you know, is that harkening back to, you know, the Conor McGregor? Obviously, you remember the famous 145 championship weight, baby. I mean, you know, people just sometimes say stuff. But we ran into him, and after, you know, everything had happened and we knew he wasn't going to fight, we asked him about that. And, you know, whether or not he was, you know, playing along or not, he said, yeah, no, listen, we talked about it as a team, and we thought, man, this thing has been nuts. And you got to remember, they had the same manager. He had the same manager as Max Holloway. So maybe they thought, listen, we're just telling you, Max might not make it, so it might not be a bad idea to be at 155. But he said, yeah, he said that played into his game plan. He figured, let's at least get 155, and then we'll be in the mix.
Max had reached 160, and the commission said Although the commission did say in a statement, us and the UFC have agreed to, but it sounded like more like this came from the commission, that it just wasn't going to be a healthy cut. Do we know any more details? Did they just see it in him? Was it the numbers of what he landed in New York compared to what he had to make that they didn't like? Was there any more details on that? Why they made that decision?
Yeah, Mike Vaughn had actually been told it actually got down to 159 even, so even a little bit closer. But there was an interview today Max Holloway did back in Hawaii with the local news station there. We've actually got it linked up on MMA Junkie now. People can read the story and watch the video. But Max did say, listen, it wasn't just that morning. It was that, they were monitoring me all week long. They were taking my vitals all week long. They were, for the time I got there, the commission was involved, and they were checking on everything. And then finally the morning of, and this was the part that was confusing to everybody, because the morning of they didn't take his vitals, and there wasn't necessarily a doctor's call. And I think that frustrated a lot of people. But when you kind of go back and see that, okay, doctors were involved every step along the way, and then the morning of they just looked at it and were like, bro, this is not good. You're not going to be able to make it. We don't want you to do this. It's not going to be safe. Even he said, listen, of course I wanted to do it, but they're here to save us from ourselves, and no hard feelings. Yeah,
I agree. I'm glad I am. I mean, of course I want to see Max fight anytime I get a chance, but it all just seemed like he had a tough road ahead of him, from the very beginning, and if that's the way it worked out, where we can get a Max versus Brian Ortega, and like he says in that headline that you just told us about, hey, history can wait a little bit, and I can wait as a fan as well. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what? And I'm kind of glad it worked out for Ortega, because I thought Ortega, had worked himself into a definite position for a title, and who knows how this fight would have, affected that title fight.
Right. And so now we're left with Iaquinta and Pettis. Pettis appeared to be the first option. It's confirmed he asked for $1 million payday to take the fight, and he was not willing to lose the .2, or would he have done that if they met his price?
Yeah, that is not clear, because I haven't heard an official on-record confirmation. Of course, you're always going to go in there and ask for a little bit more money. Of course, you're in a position of power at that point. Whether it was $1 million or not, I don't know. The commissioner did go on record, though, and say that Pettis looked her square in the eyes and said, I'm not willing to lose this extra, .2, which I'm assuming means because they're not willing to pay me the money.
Okay. And Iaquinta, same weight class, or same weight, 155.2. Later on, it is true that they weighed his underwear. Why did they do that if it didn't matter anyway? What was the point of that?
Well, the UFC weighed his underwear. The commission didn't weigh his underwear. So the UFC wanted to be able to kind of have this rhetoric, this line, this angle that, we weighed the underwear, and that's the .2. Which, I mean, listen, if Al had, thought about it, of course he would have weighed 155, but that's not the way it works. You got to actually hit the number. So, that was the confusing part of it, because, once this thing was put together, we were told, okay, it's going to be kind of a half title fight, which we've seen in other situations before. And then we get to the press conference, and Dana doesn't say anything about that. The promo videos don't say anything about it. Nothing, as we get to the ceremonial weigh-ins, basically they had this packages ready to go, and they said, it's just a title fight. And so I asked Dana directly, right there, like, you're not saying, it sounds like you're saying the winner of this will be the title holder. And he said, well, if you beat the man, you are the man. We'll figure that out. And it gets confusing, because the bottom line is the UFC title is the UFC title. If the UFC wants to make a 212.347 pound weight champion, they can do that. It's their weight classes. It's their belts. So they can put the belt around whoever they want. But the commission said very clearly, we will not recognize this person as champion.
I see. And did Al know at that time, when he weighed in .2, that he could possibly be fighting for a title? Wouldn't it have behooved him to do it at that moment and just take the underwear off? And also, did Pettis weigh in with underwear at .2, or was he?
Yeah, both guys. No, both guys did, and no, neither one of them knew at that point. Neither one of them knew at that point.
Okay. Wow. All right, guys, you want to throw something at him, because I still got more, but I don't want to be the ball hog here.
As George mentioned, like, the only times that we could really catch up with things were probably when our day was done and in the morning. So we got a lot of the mainstream stuff that came across our television. And what I wanted to ask you, John, was, when Floyd Mayweather makes a mistake, people don't blame boxing. They blame Floyd Mayweather. But it seemed like there was a lot of blame MMA. Those guys are crazy versus blame Conor McGregor. Did you find yourself having to defend MMA at all this weekend with just the casual people asking these questions?
Not so much. I didn't see the mainstream stuff. Me, I kind of live in the bubble a little bit. But everything I talked to was about Conor McGregor. And it's funny because, I think that brings up a good point. You know, a lot of people are leaning on this quote that Dana had in the post-fight press conference, where if you go watch the post-fight press conference, Dana actually says, you know, listen, it's a lot worse in some other sports. You know, we'll take a dolly through a window any day. And a lot of people are using that quote to say, oh, well, look, you know, Dana's not even mad at Conor anymore. He doesn't even care anymore. You know, after saying it was the most disgusting, vile criminal act, now he's not saying, you know, now he's saying we'll take it any day. But that was actually in a question that kind of is exactly what you're saying. Kevin Iole said, hey, listen, you know, you spent years trying to make sure the PR of this sport is okay, that people realize, you know, what this sport is. It's not a blood sport. It's not full of, you know, bloodthirsty criminals or whatever. You know, do you think that this is bad for the sport, that's bad for the UFC, that it's going to have long-term lasting impact on the sport itself and the organization itself? And that's when Dana gives that answer. So I just think that's an intriguing point, because I've seen that question and that answer taken a little bit out of context to try to paint a picture of where the UFC stands at this point. But no, to be honest with you, most of what I talked to was people just incredibly disappointed in Conor McGregor. You know, I mean, there's no other way to put it, man. It's an indefensible act. What he did is ridiculous, and it's sad. I mean, here's a guy that we defended and we loved, and his amazing story, you know, coming from being a plumber's apprentice to a $100 million payday with Floyd Mayweather in the course of 5 years. I mean, it's amazing. And then to resort to this is just shock. I mean, it was just shocking. It was difficult to process, and even still, I'm not sure I understand it all. It just sucks.
What's your gut feeling, John? Do you think he fights in 2018?
Oh, that's the tough part. Does he fight in 2018, man? Because, listen, he's not going to jail. No question about it. The guy doesn't have a history of criminal acts. He's not going to jail. On top of that, he's got a lot of money, some fine attorneys that'll be working with him to help him get him defended. You know, do I think he'll get some type of probation? I mean, I think he'll face some legal repercussion. I think probation is part of it. You know, I think he's definitely got some lawsuits coming on the horizon that he's going to have to deal with. So I do think he's going to have some problems. I do believe that 100% he will fight in the UFC again, no question about it. You know, I know that Dana said he doesn't necessarily want to be in the business, but we're talking about minutes after this all happened, as we were all still trying to figure out what was going on, when we didn't even know what people's healths were. You know, we were all in shock. But he's going to fight again. Whether or not it gets done in 2018, I'm a little concerned with that timeline. So, you know, without having an I don't know answer available to me, if I had to guess, I'd probably say no, not in 2018, but probably early 2019.
Have we heard anything from sponsors from Conor McGregor? Well, you know, has Burger King said anything? Because that's kind of a big deal that he landed not too long ago, and we've seen other athletes in other sports lose sponsorships for far less.
Yeah, no, we haven't yet. You know, we've been trying to reach out and get some kind of comment on that, and we don't at this time. I imagine we're going to hear stuff pretty soon. Yeah. You know, I think just like the UFC, a lot of those people will probably want to let the legal system play out a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, why would you want that guy representing your brand right now? I no offense to Conor McGregor, but I just don't understand why you would want that to be the face of your company.
Yeah, you know, John, we could definitely be here, you know, and go tinfoil hat as that point you made earlier, where, you know, how much of it, you know, is this Dana White, you know, is he being two-faced here? He was just saying this, but now he's saying this. Does this mean that Conor McGregor is going to go off easy? We could go down that rabbit hole, but I guess what I think feel is a safer thing to do is look at the prerequisites set before. You know, Goes just mentioned the penalty prerequisites as far as guys who lose their sponsorships after these kind of things happen. But as far as Dana White in the press conference, because it was kind of a real tone change, but at the same time, I think we've seen this before. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I mean, whether it's a Rampage incident or these other incidents, John Jones, we see Dana White give an immediate reaction, which is usually pretty hot, right? But as soon as he gets to regroup, whether he gets to the courtroom, the legal, he gets in the mix of things, the UFC gets their hands in things, it almost feels like he turns it, which is what he should do, I imagine, as a promoter, but he almost rights the ship really fast, doesn't he? As soon as he gets involved in the situation. Is that the sense you got from him?
Here's where I feel this is different, okay? So there's a couple things at play here. I mean, I definitely do think, you know, on fight night, you know, he was a little bit softer in his point. But if you go back to everything he said, it was just like, listen, I'm exhausted. I haven't had time to deal with this. Like, I've had so many problems to deal with. I just want to get the hell out of here. And to be honest, I think we all felt that way at that point. And he's got to let the legal process play out. Like, it doesn't do the UFC any good to jump out ahead of the legal system in making their decisions and what they're going to do. I mean, it makes sense for them to see what the courts are going to decide first, and then go from there. But two things I'd say to take note in. First, take a look at the embedded clips that went out, okay? You know, the UFC constantly cuts things from these embedded. I mean, stuff regarding weight cuts, people's comments about PEDs. I mean, the UFC is very, very image conscious. This is their footage. They can sit on it. They can bury it away if they want. They made a conscious decision to go out there and air this to the world. I mean, that's basically prosecution evidence that they're putting out there for the world to see. Now, will that maybe pay dividends down the road? Yeah, if they end up fighting, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, of course, people are going to go back to that, and it's going to build it. But at the time, they're allowing their biggest star to look like an absolute idiot, which is what he looked like in those scenes. So for them to let that go, I think means something. And here's the other part about it. And you talk about these legal problems in the past. The thing about this one that differs is everything that Conor did affected Dana directly. I mean, it nearly cost a main event. It did cost, 3 different fights on the card. I mean, all these things that happened along the way, those directly impacted Dana White and the UFC. So I think, not only are you talking, had Conor just gone on a rampage in Dublin and attacked some random bust of tourists in Dublin and it showed up on video, would it have the same impact? Yeah, initially people would go, what's wrong with this crazy guy? Is he on drugs? What's he doing? But as far as how it lives in Dana White's memory, attacking tourists in Dublin is something that's out of sight, out of mind. Attacking your other athletes on the roster and directly impacting fights and losing, yeah. So I don't think Dana's going to be quite as quick to dismiss this as it seems like a lot of the media wants to paint it out to be.
That's a great point, and I know we were talking about that Thursday evening before that embedded dropped, and that was one of our things we were talking about. What is that going to show? That what exactly is going to be on there? And I agree. I think that does speak loudly. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of kind of like what Ghost said earlier, blame, whether it's fighter blame, is this guy hurt, or F Conor McGregor, however right or however wrong many of these might be. I feel like it kind of comes down to the commission and the UFC at the end of the day. Now, Dana had some great things to say about the commission, and the commission, of course, anybody who was reading Twitter was taking a lot of flack for the decision of, as far as why Felder didn't get it. Now, I know the chief director released some quotes this morning, kind of saying stuff on the contrary, and without getting too deep into those quotes or any of these details with the weigh-in debacle, I guess let me ask you this, John. Is it normal? I mean, I know this is the craziest fight week, so it's an unfair question. But as far as the continuity of the answers you're getting from the UFC as a reporter, the answers you get from the commission, is there usually as much of a variance that we saw kind of this week and so far with the fallout?
No, I don't think so. I think usually there's people are a little bit more on the same page. I mean, for one side to say it's a title fight, the other side to say it's not. For one side to say that Paul Felder was turned down due to rankings, the other side to say, they never even had Paul Felder presented. Yeah, that's some pretty significant differences. And, I was actually, it's funny, Steve Morocco was actually on the phone with the commission this morning, trying to follow up on some additional points or whatever. And I was actually discussing with him. And, I just, being in the thick of it on Friday and seeing how frantic and hectic everything was. And, I remember at one point during that, 6-hour weigh-in stream that we had where we were literally there all day, and not knowing what to expect, not knowing when things could break, just trying to anticipate how it would go. I remember I was like, I'm falling asleep. I got to go get some coffee. And, I went out to the hotel lobby to get some coffee and just happened to run into Sean Shelby, who obviously didn't want to talk a whole lot at that point, but just seeing, like, the stress on his face and the look of what all they were trying to do and how many moving pieces there were and how they were trying to pull it all together. And meanwhile, tick-tock, 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 the ceremonial weigh-ins are in about, 90 minutes. Are we going to go over there and look like idiots and not even have a fight card? We started joking at one point, maybe they'll just do the ceremonial weigh-ins without making an announcement. We'll just see who comes out from each side of the stage and figure out who's fighting each other at that point. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that'd be a fun show. Like, oh, God, look at this fight they put together
like
today.
The Royal Rumble, there's just a countdown, and they come down a ramp.
So great.
Yeah,
wrestler mask.
Like, that's a hell of a fight they put together on 60 minutes notice. So, yeah, it got crazy. So I think bottom line is it was just tough to keep everybody on the same page. I don't think there was any ill intentions on the commission side or any ill intentions on the UFC side. It was just a hectic, crazy day, the likes of which we've never seen. I think that led to some miscommunication.
What would have been nice if Felder was presented is he has more momentum. Even though Iaquinta, I think, has a longer streak, Felder's got more recent momentum. He had made the weight, so it could have been a world title fight for both. And it would have allowed us to keep Iaquinta versus Pettis. See, Pettis is a teammate of Felder's, and I mean, you got to give them time. I'm sure both guys would agree to fight each other, but you got to give them time. You can't just spring it on two guys like that. That may have been in the sauna, just 2 hours before. But that was one thing I thought about. But, John, let me take you in the direction of Ray Borg. Catching a lot of flack online. If you watch Embedded 5, he looks good. He looks calm. Shaken up maybe, but not like others. And then all of a sudden he's pulled because glass went in his eye. Was he wearing glasses at the time, and was it just a little piece that randomly may have sprinkled in there? And how serious was that injury that he had?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to reach out all week to Ray Morgan. I talked to him. I had a pre-fight interview with Ray, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him after everything happened. I tried to reach out and just couldn't get a hold of him. I think a lot of people were being a little bit careful in what they said right away. But my understanding is it was like he didn't even realize what was going on at the time. That later on in the day he started having some discomfort in his eyes, and they said, you might need to go get that checked out. And so that's when he found out that he had shards of glass. So it wasn't like, all of a sudden he just jumped off the bus with both hands over his eyes, saying, I can't see. It was just, he started having some issues later, and that's when he went and got checked out and found out what was going on. So, listen, as soon as you start telling me that somebody was scared, a professional cage fighter who has spent their life doing this for a living, the guy just went against Demetrius Johnson. Come on, man. It's just that to me is silly. That's ridiculous. And listen, with your eyes, you can't be careful enough. Out of all this, that's what I was kind of most scared about, right? There's no doubt Chiesa is going to sue Conor McGregor, right? He just got costed a lot of money, right? He got costed a potential win bonus, and who knows how else, you could throw that out there. But Borg is the one I'm most scared about. It sounds like everything's fine. But just at the time, you're thinking, here's a guy with scratched corneas. Like, what if the guy can't see again? He's 24 years old, just had a baby the week before, and now, he can't ever fight again because he had corneal abrasions or whatever. How crazy would that be? How much could you sue for at that point in terms of lost revenue for the rest of your life? So, it sounds like it's not that serious. But, yeah, these people that are, he's just scared and ducking out of a fight. Like, does that? If you think back, does that really make sense to you at all? Like, come on.
Yeah. Real quick, too, as someone who used to work construction and run a construction site, we could get OSHA fined if someone was if people was talking about, Ray Borg had sunglasses on. For people talking about that real quick, let me just say, on a construction site, you can get OSHA fined if somebody's working a sanding board with just regular non-enclosed glasses. Safety glasses, but non-enclosed glasses, because even sawdust with safety glasses is still deemed unsafe because it can get right into your eyes. It doesn't matter that you have glasses on. So people saying they needed sunglasses on, that should have protected them from glass. Calm down.
Let's take a couple calls here as we end our segment with John. That way we can kind of get the best of both worlds. They've been holding for a while. Marco from Waco. Danny, can you punch them on so we don't lose John? And we lost John. All right. Great job, Danny. Hey, Marco, how you doing?
Marco from Waco. It was so much fun packed, man. You guys got away for 2 days, and the whole world falls apart. So what happened when you take a break?
Yeah, we were just talking about that in the morning.
Yeah, when Conor when it comes to Conor, he said it needs to be done. You know what needs to be done too? That court there on June 12th on New York, with New York prosecutors that love to make their name out of celebrities. And then you got an army of freaking lawyers that are seeing dollar signs with every single one of their mother, Chiesa, Borg, UFC staff, every fighter on that bus, the bus company, the Barclays Center, finding some sort of liability on Conor. He might just need to fight to freaking cover all the legal fees plus the lawsuits, man. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
Magomedov look awesome. Rose Namajunas, she fairly won. I had 3 rounds to 2. A bad look for Jen Jacek freaking complaining about the freaking lawsuit, and a really bad look. I don't like it, man. She lost some kudo points with me. And last but not least, the best freaking match this weekend was Ronda Rousey, man. Everybody shitted on her, and she was the more entertaining match on WrestleMania. She actually freaking hit it out of the park. Happy for her, dude. Peace out, guys.
Okay, we'll see it. All right, so John Morgan's back. And, John, we were going to finish up with Rose and Joanna. I believe you had Joanna winning 3-2. It said MMA Junkie and you were cage side, so I assume that was you, or was it somebody back home? I don't know. But tell us a little bit about that fight and how you felt it was scored and Joanna's reaction in the back.
Yeah, well, let me just say that I'll be honest when I say I was at a point of exhaustion that I'm not used to on fight night, scoring that. So, I think it was a close fight. I definitely, when the results were I was a little surprised it was 49-46 all across the board. As you pointed out earlier, it is kind of interesting when you point out that all 3 49-46 scorecards were different in terms of the round. But, yeah, I actually had Joanna up 3-1 going into that 5th round. I also gave that 5th round to Rose Namajunas as well. So, I thought, bizarrely enough, I think it was a good fight for both fighters. I think, Rose got to go out there and prove it wasn't a fluke. She got to go out there and prove, that she can battle through adversity, admitting that she thought about not fighting because she was so shaken up by what happened. But Joanna got to go out there and also show, listen, hey, when I said I had weight cut issues last time, I'm telling you, I had weight cut issues last time because I thought she looked phenomenal out there. Maybe she didn't quite have the power that Rose has in her, but, she definitely had the volume. She had the attacking. The leg kicks were fantastic. I thought she maybe wasn't given enough credit for the leg kicks. She dotted up Rose pretty bad there. I think it showed that Joanna still matters in the division. Maybe she wants to move up to 125 because it is tough to get another title shot when you're 0-2 against the champ. But,
right.
I think it showed that Joanna's not done as a fighter. So I scored it slightly towards Joanna, but, man, those rounds were so close that I had no problem with the decision going the other way, even if I was a little surprised that it was 4-1.
Yeah, hopefully in subsequent interviews, maybe Joanna just gives Rose some credit, moves to 125, even if it's just for a fight or two, because that strawweight division's so nutty. And I don't mean to disrespect Rose, but she has taken a few losses. Carolina's beaten her, and someone like Andrade may even be favored against Rose. So she can always come back through the route of, hey, well, I beat the ones that beat Rose if Rose were to lose. So I think Joanna just really needs to take a vacation, calm down, because she's just one of those fighters that sometimes speaks a little bit too raw and honestly, and sometimes it doesn't come off well. One more call, and then we'll end both John's segment and the first segment here of the second hour as we transition into Ray Longo. Can you bring in Showtime, Danny? Is it possible? Or yeah, there it is. Showtime from Tennessee. It's your time. What's up, bud?
Hey, can you guys put me back on hold for a second if you don't mind?
Yeah. All right. So let's finish up with John Morgan. John, last question from me. After all this and seeing Khabib, win that title and take his record to 26-0, which is amazing. The one thing that rubbed me wrong was, I want GSP, and it felt like Khabib was going to restore order a little bit, and because this is a talent-rich division, and there's some key high-profile fights that are coming up. And he's often said it's not about the money. So it could be that he could tell me, hey, George, it's about the legacy. But right now, GSP isn't a legacy 155er. And I don't really want to see a money fight or a catchweight fight or even Khabib move up to 170. So what do you think there's another name just from talking to Khabib, all these years? And what do you think might be one of the other possibilities that we may be looking at if Khabib defends 155 against another quality 155er? Aside from Ferguson, who I consider hurt, and Conor, who I consider just on the shelf.
But see, that's the problem. I mean, you're taking number one and number two in the division in terms of challenges, and you're throwing them out the window. So, yeah, I mean, what's he supposed to do? Call out Eddie Alvarez, call out the Gaethje Poirier winner, call out the Barbosa Lee winner? I mean, no. I think – so at first I was a little jarred, too. I was like, GSP, what's he talking about? And then I did clarify, the post-fight press conference. Are you saying you go up to 170, or you're saying you want him to come to 155 and challenge the title? And I was proud that he at least said, listen, no, I meant 155 for the title. I'm come down to my division.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that because, to be honest with you, that's the problem right now. With Conor McGregor's future uncertain, Tony Ferguson just had surgery today. And listen, I know Dana said he'll never make that fight again, but if they both keep winning fights, you're going to have to make it at some point. I really don't hate the GSP call-out that much because if GSP can make 155, it is probably the most appealing fight. I mean, I guess Eddie Alvarez is there, and again, the Gaethje Poirier winner this weekend could be pretty fun as well. But that's the only damn bad thing about this situation is Khabib finally ascends to the top, and there's so much confusion and so much issues right now that there's not a number one cut clear contender for him right now. So that part of this whole thing kind of sucks a little bit because I don't feel like there's a fight that we have to see next. And I feel like so many times when a champion ascends the throne, we go, oh, man, now I can't wait for this first defense because we know it's going to be against so-and-so, and I just don't feel like we have that here.
I'm not saying Poirier's going to win because he's got a tough fighter ahead of him who's fighting in his home state where he's from, not where he lives, where he's from. So Gaethje could be a spoiler, which puts Alvarez back in the front as the front runner because he beat Ray Gaethje. But if Poirier makes a statement win, I think we got ourselves a title fight, guys.
When?
At least until Conor declares
Ramadan
himself.
Coming up.
No, that's fine because Ramadan's coming up. I think it's late May to late June.
Mm-hmm.
So Staples in August, maybe that's too soon. But there appears to be a pay-per-view in September, and then that's followed by the one in Vegas. And I know Khabib wants to fight in New York, but I just don't know that he'll get that many, that many comforts, I guess, from the UFC if they need him.
George.
Yeah.
Tease it. I got to know. I said on the MMA Roadshow and a half episode last night, you do the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know where – I haven't seen him yet. You haven't seen him yet. Where's Khabib going to end up? Does he go straight to number one? Because, he beat Iaquinta in a title fight. Now, if that was just a non-title fight, Is that enough to get past Ferguson, who was the interim champ and just lost it? Is that enough to get past Conor McGregor, who was the champ and just lost it on technicalities? Does Khabib go to number 1?
Yeah, I think he does. He holds the title in that very, very talent-rich division. I think he's either 9-0 or 10-0. I'll brush up on that when I do these rankings. Within the UFC alone, undefeated. And, look, he fought who was the last man standing. You know, he was supposed to fight Ferguson. He fell off. Conor has not wanted to come defend his belt, so he was stripped. Max, you know, wasn't there for him. That would have really fucking clusterfucked pound for pound. So I dodged the bullet there. But him beating Ally Quinta, being dominant, I believe he is the number 1 55er out there. And yeah, so you know, pound for pound is going to be really, really a little bit of a task. But I think it's going to work out that way. But I think Khabib also needs to play ball a little bit. And if he can fight in August, because he only fought like twice in 17 months or 27 months or something like that. We got to get him active. We got to restore order in that division. And I'd like to see him either at Staples or Vegas, not necessarily wait till New York, but who knows what will happen, man. All right, John.
He accepted 5 different opponents in a 7-day span. He'll be there.
That's true. Yep. Thanks, man. Thanks for the time, all right?
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, see you. All right, folks, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Ray Longo, who was in the corner of Ally Quinta this past Saturday. Brave effort by Iaquinta, came up short, but hey, come on, man. If you fight Khabib for 5 rounds, you got to walk out of there going, all right, hang on a second. Real estate, you're on hold. I may have a title run here in me, you know, if I can regroup here and get some wins and get back to a title shot, whether it's Khabib or someone else. All right, folks, stay close. We'll be right back.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been. And because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day.
This is MMA Junkie Radio.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device. And then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel. You'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. Joining us now is Ray Longo, one of the best coaches in the sport of mixed martial arts. He's had 2 world champions win belts under his tutelage, and he almost had a third because Al Iaquinta was thrust into a title fight opportunity this past Saturday. By that I mean I realize the scores came in and it was a unanimous decision, Khabib Nurmagomedov, but the fact that he had a fighter go, a skilled fighter like Al, that's what I mean. They could have possibly taken home a 3rd world title for that team. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Ray? How you doing?
Hey, I feel great, guys. Really great. Very inspiring weekend. Just good stuff. I think a lot of feel-good moments for everybody.
The fight didn't go your way, Coach, but tell me how proud you are of Al and the fact that, you know, this is a guy that has had some issues with the UFC. He's had some injuries. And now he had an opportunity like that, and the kid that in no way embarrassed himself. If anything, he proved to him he's one of the best in the world and that he can possibly make a title run in the future.
Listen, man, let's call a spade a spade. First off, Khabib's is a professional killer. I mean, the kid is obviously has ruined people. He came off a tremendous victory over Edson Barboza and had Barboza backing up, and Al went in there. After spending just 90 seconds in the octagon for 3 years, his first full camp since 2015, training for a great striker like Paul Felder, basically did no defensive wrestling. And, man, how he even won 5 rounds is bizarre to me. I mean, the kid really is just a special kid. He has attributes you can't teach a fighter. As a coach, I can't teach him what happened in there that night. He's born with it. He's a fighter. He loves what he does. I got nothing but the utmost respect for Khabib. I love his team. I love him. I love the way he speaks. He's a true warrior, and I think 2 guys went in there. They fought. They left it. They put it all on the line. I think there's a mutual respect. They both gained from each other that'll last them a lifetime.
Ray, you guys got word that you'd be fighting Khabib on Friday. The fight was on Saturday. So there was no – I don't know if they had time to game plan or even to watch YouTube or anything. What did you tell Al in that one day that you had about Khabib and how he should approach the fight and the extra 10 minutes of fighting?
Hey, look, it came down to this. It came down – there was a little talk. I mean, obviously we addressed when he triangles the legs, when he gets you down. We didn't want him backing up to the cage. We wanted him to keep it in the center. We had a couple of Hail Mary techniques that we were going to try to get off on, and that was it. Nothing crazy. He had a really good camp. He was spot on. His warm-up that morning, everybody that was there was blown away by how good he looked. I mean, the X factor was, that wrestling in the first round, which we hadn't prepared for. It's a totally different energy expenditure system. Really wore his arms down, and he just felt a little sluggish, and he really couldn't get his offense going the way he liked it, because just carrying that guy for 2 rounds is a nightmare for anybody. But you could see, man, he was trying. He did have Khabib going backwards, which I don't think anybody's really done. He stuffed a bunch of takedowns. I can't be prouder of this guy. Again, as a coach, I'm blown away because I don't even know how he did it. That was just will and determination that you were watching in there. Coupled with a guy who's very technically skilled, but for me, it was like, wow, what if we really trained for 5 rounds, man? It would have been a totally different ball game.
Ray Longo, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, he cornered Al Iaquinta this past Saturday versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Almost had his 3rd world champion. He would have joined Matt Serra and Chris Weidman. Ray's on Twitter at Ray Longo MMA. Now let me turn it over to one of my co-hosts. Goes, what do you have for Ray Longo?
Ray, given the situation, everything that came along with it, had Al pulled off that upset, would it have been bigger than the Matt Serra upset over GSP?
Man, I gotta tell you, I tell you, they're all in the same category because they're all, you know, at the time, if he would have won that fight, all of these guys were considered unbeatable. You know, that's the common thread. So I don't know, man, but taking that fight on one day's notice, I'm going to have to say, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I don't like to say because I'm so proud of all of those guys and what they've accomplished. I don't want to diminish anything, you know, but it would have been a great, great moment. And I really thought we were going to win that night. I really did. And up until the last second of the last round, he always had a chance. You know, if he wasn't the guy that finished fights before that, would have been a different story. But we know when he gets you in trouble, he's a great finisher. And, man, I just wanted to touch him up a little bit. And, you know, it just wasn't going to happen. But I thought it was such a valiant effort and just showed great character. I don't know. I loved it. And, again, not to take nothing away from Khabib because he was in the same spot, too. You know, he was on that bus. He's got that idiot harassing him. He's got to go through 4 or 5 different opponents. So my hat's off to Khabib, too. His whole team, his manager, his family. He's just a good dude. It was an honor to be in there, to be involved in a fight with him. Again, he's a father. He's spiritual. He's a legitimate tough guy. I think we need more of that type of stuff in UFC. So I wish him the best of luck in the future.
It looked like Al had his share of bumps and bruises, but was he able to avoid any injuries? And with that being said, could we possibly see that Felder fight still? That was a fight that a lot of people liked and wanted to see.
You know, I guess look down the road. I mean, listen, man, my heart goes out to Paul Felder, to all the guys that didn't fight. Michael Chiesa, Pettis, Felder. That's a shitty thing, man. They put a lot of time in. I know what these guys go through. So a fight, I think Felder's going to have to get back in there quicker. Just to, you know, I'm assuming mentally he just wants to do something because that's pretty traumatic what happened to the guy. You know, you think you're fighting and you're not. And if it would have happened to Al, I don't even know. I would have been blown. I would have been fucked up about it. But I think he's going to have to get back in there quicker. I don't think we're going to see Al for, you know, I don't think the time's going to line up. But certainly in the future, I think, look, everybody knew that was going to be a fun fight. So I think that's a fight everybody would see. And if it's in the cards, yeah, sure. I mean, it's not going to, you know, turn it down. I think this fight maybe put him in a different limelight as far as a higher profile opponent, and that's 100% not taken away from Felder. I think he's going to move up the ranks, but you know, I could see him with an Anthony Pettis, something like that, somebody ranked above him. I think he deserves it now. I think he just showed that. I think Al did better than a lot of other guys would have did, you know. So I think they know who he is now. He's not going anywhere, and again, Khabib is an assassin, man. That guy gets on top of you. That's a problem for anybody.
Dan Tom, our fight analyst, what you got for the coach?
Man, Ray, again, congratulations. I mean, I as far as just, you know, being able to take this head first, and I love the words you're saying as far as respect. Even the things didn't go your way. You know, you're saying a lot of great things here. But Ray, just kind of an off question. I got to ask you. You know, I always see you represent the Jeet Kune Do, and as a traditional martial artist who found my way into mixed martial arts, I always appreciate whether it's a fighter or a coach who kind of, you know, takes that pathway. Can I just ask you real quick, where did you get started in martial arts? Was it stumbling on Bruce Lee movies as a kid, or was it, you know, all the boxing greats and inspirational matches going on in New York?
Well, not so. First off, huge boxing fan. Used to watch a lot of fights with my dad, and, you know, it was a huge, you know, Roberto Duran fight. I remember watching Duran against Esteban de Jesus. I think they fought in like 100-degree weather in Panama. It was a fantastic fight. It's a good fight to go back and watch. And then I always fell in love with boxing. And then, I started out in traditional Kung Fu at about 13 or 14. And then I went to a seminar in like 80-something with Paul Vunak. And, you know, at the time, you got to remember, there's no internet, there's no anything, man. And this guy just blew me away with the Kali and the trapping and the mindset, knowing that he had the lineage to Bruce Lee. And Dan Inosanto, I think, who's probably the best martial artist in the world as far as knowledge goes. If you ever have the chance, even now at a later age, I just had a couple of my students go to a seminar in New York. They're still blown away by what this guy does. I think he represents the true martial arts spirit of always wanting to learn. I think he got his black belt from the Machados in his 60s. And that's what martial arts is about to me. Just never, ever stop learning. And the Jeet Kune Do philosophy and all of that stuff just hit home with me. I think Bruce did a great job on breaking down systems and, angles of attack and, all this stuff, progressive indirect attacking, the feinting, the faking. He did a great job, but again, at a time when it was not easy to get that information. And just to touch on your thing, as a 14-year-old kid, watching those Bruce Lee movies, 100% had a big impact on my life, and it's what I wanted to do. And even though I chose the route as an accountant, because my dad wanted me to go to school, because I think me and my brother were maybe the second and third people to even complete college at the time, was a big deal. And I loved accounting. I had a great experience with that, but martial arts was my passion. And knock on wood, it worked out. Who would have thunk it?
A lot of things are working out for you.
Did I even answer your question? I don't know.
You answered it perfectly. That's exactly what I expected and was hoping to hear from a guy like yourself, Ray. Thank you very much.
Coach,
awesome, man. And dude, I still love Kali. I still teach it. I still love. I think Kali's the best. For weapons, it's the best system you could ever find. I think the Filipinos have that thing down great. I love knife work. I love it. All translates into the empty hands. And me and Al do a lot of knife stuff together. We haven't done it in a while, but he loves it. It's fun. There's a lot of stuff you guys don't see that goes on. That I try to make it interesting for everybody I teach and am around, and I hope it's positive. But Al. There's a clip Fox have of me and Al doing some knife stuff that's really pretty cool if you get to see it.
You do have your hands in a lot of jars, Coach. And one last thing, we'll close with this. Brooklyn Banker. Goes hasn't seen the trailer yet, and I don't know if Dan has, and I don't know if our audience has. I don't want to talk about it too much other than when is this deal going to drop completely? Because the reason I don't want to say it because there's a fabulous name in there, and when I saw it, my eyes lit up, and I cannot wait to see whenever the Brooklyn Banker will be done, whatever, if it's going to be an online series or what. But what can you tell us about this without giving away the gentleman?
I won't say the guy's name, but the guy's a fantastic person. I was teaching somebody who wrote the movie, and I went down there he said, why don't you come down to the set? And I went down there. We got to get this guy in there, and I wasn't a SAG member, so they wrote a couple of lines, but they didn't want to do it because there were other people, I think, on the set. That's the way it's explained to me. But I do have a lot of screen time. It was fun. I got to meet a lot of great people. And I did a couple of short movies that hopefully will come out soon that are really, really good.
Can't wait to see
it. But look, great. The Brooklyn Banker is out. Brooklyn Bank is out. It's been out. It's on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
On demand or Prime. Yeah, you could get it.
I'm going to check it out, Coach.
No, check it out. I think you'll like it. The writer Mike Rosigliano did a great job on it. He's a good friend, and he's going to probably re-release it soon. But you could definitely get it on Amazon Prime. I think you'll like it. There's a lot of name guys from some of the old Soprano stuff. And, man, even the kid from Ball is great. Troy Garrity is in it. That's Jane Fonda's son. He's the agent on Ballers with The Rock, and it's just a great energy, great bunch of people. I got my foot in the door, and I'm having a blast with it.
I'll be retweeting it because that was an awesome teaser. And speaking of the word awesome, Al did awesome on Saturday night. I know he'll be back, and I know you're proud of him. Coach, thanks for the time. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. It's always a pleasure. And anything you guys ever want, you never have to ask. I'm always ready for you.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
All
Folks,
right,
follow him on Twitter at Ray Longo MMA. He's one of the best in the business. We're going to take our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
He taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, here we go. Just got a couple minutes. All right, Showtime. Make it quick, man. We don't have much time. What's up, Showtime?
Hey, great weekend of fights, man. A bunch of craziness. I know you guys had fun at the base, man, and I missed the show those couple days you guys weren't on, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. We did have a good time, and we will talk a little bit more about experiences tomorrow, I guess, and also touch a little bit more on the Junkie Gathering. The night of fights was it doesn't suck. It never sucks. The decisions kind of dragged on a little bit for me, but the troops really rallied me, man. Thanks for the call, bud. I'm going to give Brian from Boston a couple seconds here. Brian from Boston, you got about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. What's up, bud?
Hey, boys, real quick. Holloway, we know he's the 145 champ. He couldn't even make 155. Do you know what his walking around rate is?
There was rumors that he was 30 pounds above 155, so he must have been at 185. However, I've also heard that's the biggest he's ever gotten. So I think we all anticipate that Max at some point will be a lightweight, but he may have just gotten caught slipping. You know what I mean? I've heard most of the time he's more of a 75 to 80 guy, but I really don't know that for a fact. It's just kind of what I've heard from people that know. But I'm glad that they caught it and we avoided ourselves, you know, something serious happening with him. We don't need it, you know what I mean? The sport, we tried it, but we don't need it. So I applaud the commission over there, even though I feel like a few other things may have been fumbled. Buddy, we got to move on, man. Thanks for the call. We got to get out of here on time. Otherwise, you know us, we'll do overtime and bang with the best of them. We're out of here, though, folks. Go out there and be champions.
The daytime, if you see it.